Hello and welcome to the Pup Mommy, and thank you once again for joining me for this video. You know, there's been a story in the national media lately, just within the last, I want to say, week of the time that I'm making this video, and it's a very sad story about two children, aged 5 months and 2 years, who were fatally mauled by the family's two pit bulls. And also the mother spent about 10 minutes trying to get the dogs off her children, and she herself sustained some terrible injuries and was taken to the hospital critically injured, but now is in stable condition, thank God. So this brings me, in fact, I will leave a link to the story. If you have not heard about it, I'll leave a link to the story in the description area where you can read about it further. And this brings me to the topic for today's video: how to have children and dogs cohabit safely, how to raise dogs with children safely. Because owning a dog is a huge responsibility, but especially it's even more so when you have children. Now, I grew up with a dog. I grew up with a dog, and it's had a profound impact on me that I carried with me for the rest of my life. It had a very positive impact on me. And that's why I'm very much in favor of, when you have children, to have a dog, to have a cat. Preferably a dog, because this is the Pup Mommy. But anyway, I also have many friends who have dogs and have children, from tiny babies to toddlers, to children who are under 10 to teenagers. Some of my friends actually do own pit bulls. Other friends have different breeds of dogs as well. In fact, I have a friend who lives in, I think it's in South Carolina now, who actually raised her children, and now her grandchildren, with 130-pound Malamutes. So it can be done successfully. And, you know, I'll tell you something. When you think about it, all dogs can bite. And yes, bites can be serious. All you have to do is ask an ER doctor or a nurse who has to tend to adults and or children who had come into the ER with dog bites. All right, so therefore it's really incumbent upon you as a dog owner to ensure that your home is safe. Safe for not only you, your children, your family, but also safe for your dog as well. And this is where this topic comes in today, about raising your children to be respectful of your dogs, and your dogs respectful of children, because I think it comes down to two things. It comes down to, number one, love and affection that is shown, and number two, boundaries. And boundaries are for both the children and the dogs. So what's the key here? Children are another matter as well, and just as you start training an 8-week-old puppy when you bring it home, also need to start training your little toddlers and your children, because there is a big difference between a toy and a doll, which are inanimate objects, and a living, breathing being. So let me take you through a few things I think you should know and you might find helpful. And number one, a child should never, no matter what the child's age is, no matter whether the child sits on a floor and, you know, flaps his hands back and forth and whatever, a child should never ever be allowed to hit or smack or basically tap a dog. Really. I mean, there are a lot of dogs out there, you say, oh, they're wonderful, they have wonderful temperaments. No, it doesn't matter. A child, when they, you know, that means ear pulling, that means tail pulling, that means a lot of things. And you know how sometimes little babies can be like this, and they can go here and then his neck, and the next thing you know, they're hitting the dog on the nose or the muzzle, or they're tapping the dog all over the place. You should teach your children as soon as you are able to properly caress a dog and how to pet a dog. Because, you know, you can tell, sometimes adults can tell from body language of a dog, and children can't, when enough is enough and when too much is too much. And what ends up happening, and everybody thinks, oh, the little, isn't this cute, isn't this cute, isn't this cute? Well, you know what, that cuteness adds up. And someday that dog is going to have enough. It's not going to feel well, or something else may be bothering her, or for whatever reason that dog's had enough, and what's going to happen? And next time the child does that, the dog is going to snap, it's going to react, it's going to be reactive, and it can snap and bite. You don't want that. You want to try and prevent that as much as you can. And that's why there are rules and boundaries as to how to treat your dog. Number two, children should learn to be respectful of the dog's bed and the dog's crate. That's its safe space, that's its timeout space, that's where it goes to feel comfortable and where it wants to just chill out and be left alone. Teach your children to respect your dog's crate and bedding. Number 3, children should be respectful of dog's dinner time and when it's drinking water. Okay? That's when the dog is busy eating its food. We don't want the children touching the dog, coming up to the dog, hitting the dog, which they should never do, or petting the dog, or putting their hands into the dog's dog bowl. And there are some little kids who will. No, this is, again, this is not a case of a dog resource guarding, which is totally different. It's it's respecting the dog's time to eat, the dog's time to drink. After it's through eating and drinking, then you can touch the dog, then you can, want to do whatever with, play with the dog nicely. But respect the dog's food and water bowl. Number 4, too, children should never really be allowed to yell or scream or throw tantrums at the dog, especially if, for example, the dog ate the child's sandwich or the ice cream cone, or if the dog got into the child's toys or the Xbox, because really dogs don't know that much difference between a Kong toy and an Xbox when it really comes down to it. So instead of throwing a tantrum and screaming and yelling at the dog, it's much better to say, hey, Michael, Sue, you really, when you're through with your toys, you need to put them away in the toy box, because otherwise those toys are going to go the same way as somebody's shoes or somebody's sweater or somebody's anything that the dogs can get into. All right, so that's kind of rule number 4. And then finally also too, children should realize that dogs are not their personal plaything. And sometimes that happens when the dog is one of these giant dogs like a St. Bernard or a Leon Berger or a Cane Corso. All of a sudden it's, we're going to go for a pony ride. No, you're not. Dogs are not personal playthings. So try and teach your children and try and keep your children from, again, making their dog the personal plaything. Because, dogs are very much like us humans, in summary. We can put up with bad behavior, and dogs can put up with bad behavior to a certain extent, and then all of a sudden, when it's a human being, we kind of have, we need to talk. We need to have this, you're addressing down, or you're going to have a come to Jesus meeting. With a dog, it's a different thing. When a dog's had enough, a dog gets reactive, it snaps, it bites. Now, we may have hurt feelings. With a dog, it's going to be different. It's going to be a trip to the shelter. And when you take a dog to the shelter with a bite history, it's nearly impossible for that dog to ever get adopted. So you're basically signing the dog's death warrant. And don't let that happen. Don't let your dog be a statistic, because the training wasn't there, and the training for the dog as well as the training for the children and for other adults and friends. So in summary, again, too, owning a dog, again, is a huge responsibility, and it's even a bigger responsibility when you have children, because you're looking out. Because, as I've said in so many other videos, dogs are four-legged children. So you got a two-legged one and you got a four-legged one, and you got to worry about them both. They can coexist together happily, they can coexist together peacefully, and they can, I'll tell you something, when you train the kids, when you train the dog, especially too with a dog, you're going to have a lifelong friend who's going to have incredible loyalty to you and your children and family. So if you kind of have had a sense of, gee, I know, great. Then I'm hoping this video reinforced that. But you'd be surprised the number of people out there who really don't understand about raising dogs and children and how to do so successfully. So again, thank you very much as always for watching this video. I hope you found it informative. So if you like, click the like button and don't forget to subscribe so you'll know when I upload the next video, which I should be doing more on a regular basis. I'm trying. It's only me. So thank you again for watching. Bye for now.